Well, another NFL Sunday has ended. All that remains of this week 12 is Monday night's Carolina at Philadelphia game. Now, as you can tell, my voice is just barely hanging in there. I'll try to make this somewhat brief, but I do want to go over a few of these games today. Hope your day was better than mine. Not only is my voice fading fast, but lost 3 out of my 4 bets today, and for the first time all year, failed to make a profit on my great moneyline experiment, the thing where I place a $100 moneyline bet on every game. So all around a bad day for me. Have to go back to the drawing board, but that's okay. Plenty of weeks left in this season, and fortunately we've been able to make enough profit betting college football these last few weeks to sustain us. Still, losing 3 out of your 4 bets is never fun. Like I said, do hope your day was better than mine. Now, I imagine even my day was better than the day the Green Bay Packers had. That game just wrapped up. Don't know how much of it you saw. It was certainly not interesting after about midway through the second quarter. New York Giants led 31-10 at halftime. Ended up taking it home 38-10. And, coming into the game, Green Bay had won 5 in a row, but their offense has clearly not been the same this season. Last year, they led the NFL in scoring at 35 points per game. This year, they'd only topped 31 points one time. Played a Giants defense tonight that had been struggling coming into the game, and Green Bay just couldn't get anything going on offense all night. So even though they're still in good shape in terms of the playoffs, they're second place in the NFC North, but good place in terms. They're in good shape in terms of the NFC wild card. You have to have tremendous concerns about Green Bay. And obviously, that's not a reach saying that after they just lost 38-10. But boy, I don't know. They haven't looked the same these last couple of weeks. Even their wins, they've been on this winning streak, but they've been struggling to win these games. The offense hasn't quite been the same. The defense has played better, but we've seen that defense play so poorly last year, for example, that I don't know if a lot of people fully trusted that defense, and they showed tonight that you were right not to trust them. Giants went right through them in that first half. Giants had been playing bad. They lost a couple straight. They snapped right out of that funk. Again, a 38-10 victory over the Green Bay Packers. I leaned towards Green Bay in that game. I wasn't surprised the Giants won, but I was very surprised at the final margin, 38-10. Couple other games today. A really, really good game that I want to talk not only about the game, but we just heard a couple hours ago about some big news involving one of the teams in this game that is not good news. I'm talking about the Seattle Seahawks went on the road today to play the Miami Dolphins. It was a big game for both teams. Miami had been reeling. They were 4-3 at one point. People were talking about them as a potential playoff contender, but the wheels had fallen off. They lost 37-3 to the Tennessee Titans in their last home game. But they gutted out a 24-21 victory over Seattle today. Seattle needed the game too. Seattle was 6-4. The NFC wild cards are a little bit more competitive than the AFC wild cards, so it was a big game for both teams. Seattle now falls to 6-5, Miami to 5-6. The Dolphins just hanging in there to the faintest of playoff hopes. And Seattle, they're still right in there because a couple of the other teams they're competing with in the NFC wild card, like New Orleans and Tampa, they lost as well today. But Seattle, they could have really put themselves in good shape with a win. Bigger news, though, for the Seahawks came down after the game, or I'm sure the Seahawks probably knew about it before the game. We all found out about it after the game, and this could be crippling for this team. Their 2 starting cornerbacks, Richard Sherman and Brandon Browner, have been suspended for 4 games by the NFL for use of performance-enhancing drugs, violation of their performance-enhancing drug policy. Both players, as expected, have come out and denied this. Both will file appeals. Their appeals are expected to be heard within the next week. So this is not going to be a situation where the appeal is put off for months and these guys are able to play while their appeal is being heard. These guys are most likely going to miss 4 games here in the near future, and that is bad news for the Seahawks because the strength of this team is that defense, specifically the secondary. Now, they're good in the front 7 too, but this secondary has been playing some great football, and Richard Sherman in particular has turned into one of the best cornerbacks in the entire NFL. So losing Richard Sherman and your other starter, Brandon Browner, for 4 games, we'll see. We'll see how much that hurts Seattle. We'll see if it ends up knocking them out of the playoff race altogether. Because, again, those wild card bursts, the 2 wild card bursts in the NFC, going to be very, very competitive. And, anyway, I just learned this a couple hours ago like everybody else did. So we'll see the fallout. We'll see if one of these guys happens to win the appeal, even though I don't put much faith in that. The NFL appeal system, Roger Goodell, he's the judge, jury, and executioner. In most of these appeals, Roger Goodell hands down the penalty and you appeal to Roger Goodell. So not surprisingly, I believe there's only been one substance abuse or drug-related suspension overturned in Goodell's tenure. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was some sort of technicality. I can't remember it off the top of my mind. There's either been 0 or 1 successful appeals under Roger Goodell. As you can tell, I warned you, my voice is fading fast. Anyway, Miami at 5-6 now after pulling out that win. The Dolphins all appeared to be lost a couple of weeks ago, or before this game anyway, after their loss to the Tennessee Titans. But could they sneak back into the playoff picture? Could they sneak back into the wild card picture in the AFC? They're only a game out of it now. That's because the Pittsburgh Steelers continue to fade. Steelers lost today to the Cleveland Browns. Steelers now have 5 losses. What's more disturbing? We still don't know, no word yet on when Ben Roethlisberger will be back, if he's going to be back this season. I mean, we've heard conflicting reports. Is it a separated shoulder? Is it just broken ribs that might poke his heart or whatever? Anyway, until I hear some sort of date when Roethlisberger is going to come back, boy, it's hard to have any confidence in the Steelers because they have nothing on offense without Ben Roethlisberger. And we talked about when Roethlisberger was injured that Roethlisberger throwing the ball downfield has become the bread and butter of this Pittsburgh Steelers offense. And they were bad enough with Byron Leftwich last game against Baltimore. They were even worse today with Charlie Batch, the third stringer, against the Cleveland Browns. Charlie Batch threw 3 interceptions today. Pittsburgh scored 14, but 7 of those points was a defensive touchdown. The Browns quarterback, Brandon Weeden, he struggled as well, but Batch was worse, just made more mistakes. Now, the Steelers, they officially cannot run the football, okay? We know they haven't run the football much for the last couple of years, but a lot of people have thought, well, maybe that's by choice. Their strength is Roethlisberger throwing it downfield to that great wide receiving core, so maybe they just don't run it because they're so good passing it. Well, we found out today that's just not the case. Cleveland only averaged in terms of run defense, yet Pittsburgh, despite the fact they were playing Charlie Batch at quarterback and were not able to generate anything through the air, they only rushed for 49 yards in this game. 49 yards in a game they knew they had to run the ball. That is not good at all. And I'll tell you what, Pittsburgh's playoff hopes, they are fading fast. Now all kinds of teams who you thought were out of it a while ago, teams like Miami, right back in it. Even some 7-loss teams, as strange as that is. I mean, teams like Tennessee, who lost today to Jacksonville. The Jets, who everybody said their season was over after losing to New England. Buffalo, who lost today to Indianapolis. All of these teams, 7-loss teams, have a chance because it's going to take 9-7, no better than 9-7, for that second wild card berth in the AFC. Be interesting to see over these last few weeks. Maybe the game of the day took place down in Tampa. Atlanta Falcons, who are tied with Houston for the best record in the league going into the game, pull out a 24-23 win over the red-hot Tampa Bay Bucks. Tampa, speaking of the wild card hunt, they're in the NFC, of course. They're right in the thick of it, battling it out with New Orleans, who lost today. Seattle, who we already mentioned, lost today. And Tampa had the lead in this game in the fourth quarter, but that secondary could not hold up. We've mentioned the Achilles heel of this Tampa team is that secondary. They could not stop opponents from passing the ball. That was the case again today. Matt Ryan throwing for 353 yards. Pardon me, but I have got to get a sip. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to finish this recap. There we go. Matt Ryan throwing for 353 yards today against Tampa's 32nd ranked secondary. They were down by 6 in the fourth quarter. Ryan led a touchdown drive to put it at the final margin, 24-23. Tampa's kicker, Connor Barth, had a chance from 56 yards in the closing minutes, but he could not make it. But then again, it's 56 yards, you can't hold that against him really, but a really exciting game. Falcons pulling out a 1-point victory. The line ended up pushing, by the way. Again, Atlanta was a 1-point favorite. So I hope you didn't get greedy and bet Tampa on the money line just because it was going to pay you a few more dollars. Because if you took Tampa and that 1 point, you pushed, as opposed to the loss, of course, if you took Tampa on the money line. Now, Atlanta, again, they only have 1 loss. They're the front runner right now for home field advantage in the NFC, but a team that's right on their heels, a team that only has 2 losses, even though they do have a tie. The San Francisco 49ers were very impressive today, going on the road and doing the impossible, beating the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. New Orleans coming into this game was 15-3 against the spread in their last 18 home games. I was on New Orleans. I was wrong about this. The Niners took it to him. Now, in fairness, this was not like the Giants-Packers game tonight. The way this game got started, throughout most of the first half, it was playing out just like I thought it would, just like I'm sure many New Orleans bettors thought it would. But Drew Brees threw two pick sixes within about 15 minutes of game time. Listen, I don't know the stats in NFL history, but I'd like to know how many teams in the history of the league have ever won a football game when their quarterback has thrown two interceptions that were returned for touchdowns. That doesn't happen very often. It is tough to overcome that type of stuff. And against the San Francisco 49ers, a team like that, you are not going to be able to overcome that. So Colin Kaepernick, now 2-0 as a starter. Kaepernick played pretty well today. 231 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. In other words, Alex Smith numbers. Colin Kaepernick did his best Alex Smith impersonation today. 49ers pulled out a good 10-point road victory over the Saints. Big win for them and a big loss for the New Orleans Saints, who had come back after that 0-4 start to even their record at 5-5. They are now 5-6. And they're going to be in a must-win situation for the next couple of weeks. And the Saints' schedule does not get any easier. They take a road trip to Atlanta either this week or next week. So New Orleans Saints have their hands full. It's a big loss for them today. Well, those are the ones that stuck out. Obviously, several more results today that aren't worth mentioning. Results like my loss in the Buffalo-Indianapolis game where the Bills blew it and ended up losing by a touchdown. Or how about my lone victory of the day, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the hometown team that I've not bet on all year. By God, we had that one right? Blind squirrel finds the acorn, so on and so forth. Anyway, it's probably just as painful listening to my voice as it is actually talking. So I'm going to wrap this up. We do have Monday night's game left in this Week 12. Two bad teams. Carolina going on the road to play Philadelphia. Carolina a 3-point favorite on BETDAQ. 41 the total. As always, we're putting a full preview of that game for you on the site here in a matter of hours. Until then, for BETDAQ NFL, I'm John Arnette.